We're painting shells today. This is something I've painted lots of times and in lots of ways. And I really tried to think of the easiest way to show you how to paint them so that they look really pretty and they don't take a super long time to do it. I'm going to do this on my postcards. I'm just really into painting on these postcards right now. They've got the rounded edge and the paper's really nice. And I'm working on my wall project where I'm hanging up small pieces of art trying to get to 100. And these are probably going to go on the wall. Is that cheating? It's only a game for me. So I guess if it's cheating, I'm only cheating myself. Anyway, you could do this on paper, you could do it in a sketchbook, you could do it on individual sheets or make cards out of them, whatever you choose. But I'm doing them on postcards, and I'm doing 3. Did I say that? 3. I have a size 8 round brush and a size 6 round brush. And then I'm going to use my 24 color essential palette. If you don't have this particular palette, it is going to be fine. We are going to sketch these out, so you'll want to have a pencil handy. I grabbed 3 actual shells for my shell collection. You can reference real shells if you have them. You can reference photographs. You can just think of a standard shell shape. I mean, that's pretty easy. But I am going to use these 3 actual shells just to get the shapes for my drawings. And I will have them in the shot so that you can see them too. But there are so many different kinds of shells with different shapes, and the way we're going to paint these can be applied to any shell. So any shell that you have in your collection, you could use this same method to paint any of those. And at the end, I'm going to show you some examples of some other ways that I've painted shells and some other shell shapes, which is very hard to say. Let's paint. Okay, we're gonna start with our drawing. We're gonna go easiest to most challenging in terms of our shapes. This shell is a very standard shell. It is a blobby shape with another little rounded part here on the end. So that's how we're gonna draw it. So it is going to be just that blobby rounded shape, and then it kind of comes up and it's a little bit narrower up at the top. Okay, that's it. That's that one. We did that. For this one, we're going to do a circle, half circle. It's a little bit more than a half circle shape. And then it's going to come down in the middle to a V. That's not quite the middle. And there's going to be there's little scalloped edges. You can draw those in if you want to, or we can just paint them in. But these are going to be fairly loose in terms of the way we paint them. So it's not critical that it look exactly like the shell, right? Okay. There's that one. Now for this one, I actually prefer to paint them this way, where you're going to be able to see the opening where the little critter lives. Let me just hold it. We'll see if I can hold it so that you can see it too. I don't know how well that'll work, but we'll try it. It's got a curve, this part right here that curves, and it comes down to, it comes down to a point that then kind of angles up. And then this is the opening. This is where that shadow is going to be for the opening of the shell. Right in there. And then there's another curve here, and these two connect. And then we're going to come in a little bit, and there's going to be another line, and it's going to connect down here. And we're going to do that same thing a couple times, making it more narrow the closer we get up to the top, until we just have like a little point. I think we want to bring this out just a little bit. Let me see if I can put this down so I can hold my paper. I probably should have taped the paper down. I'm just going to bring this out a little bit because I want to have a guide for where that shadow, where that opening is going to be, because see, there's white showing here, and then that shadow. I think our drawings look pretty solid. I'm going to use my kneaded eraser. I'm going to remove some of the pencil marks just so they're not so dark. And we're going to go ahead and mix up our colors. So my colors are going to be pretty much the same 4 colors, 3 or 4 colors for all of them, but we're going to kind of use them in different ways. So I want to mix up a corally pink color. So if you have my set, this is cherry red, and I'm going to add a little bit of orange to it. I wanted a little bit more coral than pink, so I'm going to add some more orange here. And I've got a little test sheet of paper so we can look. I think I want a little, just a touch more orange in there. Yeah, that looks good. That looks good to me. So that's our first color. And then I want a yellow, a sort of natural looking yellow. So this is yellow ochre. And I'm going to add just a little bit of lemon yellow to it, just to brighten it up. And that looks good. And then I want to do a sort of blue-gray color. So I think I'll do aqua. Let's see how aquamarine looks. And then let's add just a hint of orange, because orange is the complement to blue. And that gives us this sort of blue-gray. It's a little too warm. I think I'm going to add a little bit of indigo into this. And then we'll probably need to add some orange to the indigo. Oh, that was not enough. Let's see. That looks a little less purpley. I need another tester sheet. Let's see. Yeah, that looks better. That looks more like what I had in mind. We're going to go ahead and start with this. We may use a different color for our shadow color, but for the shells, for our purposes, we're going to go with these 3. For our first shell, we're going to use our yellow color. So we want this to be fairly diluted. We don't want it to be too saturated. You can test it. That looks good. And we want to make sure that we leave white space. So I'm going to kind of go around the perimeter, the outside of the shell, just to establish the shape. And then I'm going to use my paint, and I'm going to kind of add some paint in here, but I want to leave a whole bunch of that white showing. So there's not really any rhyme or reason to where I left the white space. I just kind of filled it in, and I'm not looking at highlights in the shell or anything like that. We're making this up. We are totally making this up. So we're just keeping it super, super simple. Just putting some paint down, leaving some white space. And then we're going to come back and we're going to do details on the top. So this one is done for right now. This one needs to dry. So we're going to go ahead and move on to this one. And we're not going to try to follow what's happening on this shell in terms of coloration or markings or anything like that. We're just going to, again, fill it in, make it up, leave a lot of white space. And this time we're going to use our peach, our coral color. But I want to do it kind of the same way. So I want to just kind of put in the rough idea of that scalloped edge. I'm not even really following my pencil marks. I'm just kind of putting those bumpy lines in and then bringing it down. And then I'm grabbing some water on my brush and a little bit more paint. And we're just going to kind of make these lines coming down here, down toward the middle. But again, leaving a bunch of white space. Now, if you want to darken it up, you can go back to your paint and add that in. And then I'm gonna just outline this bottom part here and maybe fill it in just a little bit, but mostly I'm leaving this part pretty light. I think I want to darken it up maybe just a little bit. It's always better to go light to start with because you can always darken it up. It's very hard to lighten things. Okay, that's it. That's all we're doing on this one. So we can set this one to the side and grab the last one. Now this one, I'm gonna do this blue-gray color. And same concept, we're gonna just outline it a little bit with this blue-gray, and then we're gonna fill in this shadow area, but we're gonna leave it mostly open in the middle. So I'm just following those lines that we drew. Again, keeping it very loose. We're not trying to make it super duper perfect. We're going kind of fast. This is that shadow area, so I can go ahead and fill that in. And then we've got this line that gives us that white edge. I'm getting a little bit of water on my brush, and I'm just going to bring some of this paint over just to fill it in just a little bit. And if you lose some of the definition in your lines, that's okay. That's okay, because we're gonna do some more layers. So that's that one. Pretty simple. Let's go back to our first shell. So we're gonna go back to this one. And for this one, it's really straightforward. We're just going to add some lines to this one. Now, if you look at the actual shell, the lines kind of go this way. In my mind, I have this envisioned with the lines going this way. I don't know, is that like an oyster shell? Maybe slightly different than this one. So you can make this up and you can do it however you want to do it, right? So for me, I'm going to use my coral color, and I'm just going to add some curvy lines across the shell, just indicating some texture. And again, we're keeping it super loose. We are not overthinking it, right? Right, guys? That's hard. It's hard to not overthink it. I know. But we're just adding a little bit of an outline to it. We've given it some texture with those curvy lines. And that's pretty much it. I think I want to put a little bit more of that cherry red. That was a lot. That was a lot of the cherry red. So now I'm going to need to add some more orange. I'm just trying to make a darker, more saturated version of this so that I can darken these lines up just a little. So now the paint is wet. So if we just touch our brush to that wet paint, that's gonna help darken these lines up without us having to really repaint anything. You just touch the water. That one is done for now. We're gonna add a shadow to it and do some splatter as like the final thing. But for now, we're gonna set this one to the side. For our second shell, I'm gonna switch to my smaller brush, my size 6 brush, and I'm gonna go back to my peachy pink color. And I'm just going to go back and outline the little scallops even more. So I just want to darken up those little half circles, not even half circles, little C-shape scallops on the edge, just to give it more detail. And then I'm going to start adding in some lines that come all the way down here to the bottom. So we're just going to bring some lines down here toward the bottom from each of the edges of these scalloped lines. And if they run into each other, that's okay. If they're not straight, if they're not complete, if they're wiggly, they're going to be even better than if you got out a straight edge and made them perfectly perfect. Having them imperfect is going to look really good. So just remind yourself of that. And then I just want to darken up the edge of this little side part here. And down at the bottom just a little bit. If any of your lines aren't dark enough, just go over them again. That's that one. For right now, we're going to set that one to the side and we're going to go back to this one. Now, for this one, we're going to continue with the same steps. I'm just still going to use this size 6. I'm going to go back and I'm going to redefine some of these edges, right? Some of these outlines. We're just going to darken those up. And let's go ahead and darken this up on the side here too. the outline, I guess. And then I'm gonna put in some lines on this one. So I'm trying not to keep them perfectly perfect. Just putting in some little lines all the way across up there. And then let's do some up here too. Maybe we'll do, let's look, where's our shell? Here we go. So it's got some lines on this edge. I'm gonna add those in, just some little lines on the edge there. And I think I'm gonna darken up my shadow inside where it's closest. See, if we look at the shell, it's kind of hard to tell, but it's darkest like way down in there. So that's where I'm going to make sure that I concentrate my paint. You can kind of rinse off your brush and smooth it out a little bit so it's not such a harsh line. I want it a little darker on that side. All right, I think this one looks good. So let's go back to our first one. For the shadow on this one, I want to do like a blue green. So I'm going to take some of my lake green. So whatever blue green you have, and then I'm going to add a little bit of Prussian blue to that. And that's going to give me this really nice green color. And I want this to be pretty light for the shadow. So your shadows don't always have to be gray or some version of gray. You can make your shadows whatever color you like. And basically, you just want to choose a side. So I'm going to put my shadow sort of on the left side and around the bottom of the shell. And you don't want to have too much on your brush. So I just tapped a little bit off. And I'm just going to bring this around, following the curve of the shell. And it's going to come up like that. And maybe I might need to take it over just a little bit to get, because you want it to be like a gradual line. You don't want it to just stop abruptly. So that's basically it for this one. I do want to splatter it. I'm just moving my painting so that I don't splatter on my paintings. I don't really want to get any on my, I don't mind if a little bit gets on the shell, but I don't want to like totally cover the shell with splatter. So I'm just kind of holding the paper over it so that we don't splatter too much on the shell. Okay, that's it. That's the first one. I mean, it doesn't really get any easier than that. That one is finished. So for this one, I'm going to do the same thing with the shadow. I'm going to do the left side and I'm going to bring it down here and then along the bottom. And I think I want to bring it up just a little bit over that edge. So now that I have the shadow on there, I think I want to work in some of this green color into my shell. So I'm just getting a little bit on my brush. In fact, I'm going to go back to my size 6 brush and let's just darken in. Whoa, too much. Too much. We're going to darken in, but not that much. Some of these lines. Just going to bring in some of that blue green. I'm just lifting a little bit out since I went bananas straight out of the gates there. A little down here at the bottom. Okay, I think that adds a little bit of like cohesiveness between the shadow color and the shell. It makes the shell a little bit more interesting maybe, and gives it more definition. That's shell number 2. I am going to splatter this one. Too. I've given up on trying to cover the shell at this point. I'm just being careful, kinda, sorta. I got a little bit on there. That's okay. I actually don't mind it. All right, there's shell number 2. So now our final shell, and that is this guy. So for this one, I want to bring another color into this one too, and I think I want to bring in the peachy color. So we're going to add some of this peachy color in on some of these lines that we put in. And down here too. And they don't have to land like directly on the lines. They can be brand new lines if you want. In fact, let's do some lines down here too. Just like that. Maybe we'll bring these down a little. And a little bit up here too. Okay, now we're gonna do our shadow. And like I said, you can make your shadow whatever color you want. So I'm gonna do the peachy color. Let me make sure that this is not gonna be too dark. Okay, I'm gonna do the peachy color as my shadow color. And again, on the left side, and I'm just following that line all the way down. And there's that guy. Do I want to put some? Maybe I'll put some. I'm going to put some in the darkest part of the shadow here. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, I like that. That helps tie it together too. And then a little bit of splatter. I actually think let's do a little bit of the yellow splatter in here too, just to bring a little bit more color. Those are our 3 shells. Let me show you a couple others that I've made that will give you some more ideas for differently shaped shells. This one's super easy to do. It's one of the, is it a nautilus? Is that how you say it? Shell where it's just the spirally shell. These are very easy to do and very fun. I actually did this page kind of first. I was thinking about doing ink with the paint, and then eventually decided that I preferred it without the ink. But this is another example of this shell. So this whole spread was done with just one color, and I just darkened it up to do the shadow areas on all of these. So these are a couple of different shapes that you might want to do if you have reference photos or if you have shells on hand that you'd like to try. And then I did this page. So this one was actually a negative space where I drew the shell, I painted the background around the shell, and then I added some details on top. So that's another method to do it. This was sort of the prototype for the one that we just did in all blue. Some other shapes. I do really like this idea of doing all one color. On this one, I put some colored pencil down, and then I decided I didn't really love the colored pencil on it. So then I went back over it with paint and then pen, and it kind of it got overworked. I like this one better than I like this one. But that's why we practice things, right? So that we can learn what we like. This page was a mistake that I was trying to cover up. And so I just painted over it with this background. And then I was like, oh, I could make some shells with cut paper. So this one was cut paper, and this one was cut paper. And then this one was just one that I had on a scrap sheet that I cut out and stuck on this page. But that's a recovery method if you paint something that you are not wild about. Because I actually really like this spread. I think it's fun, and I like the sort of one color. There's some purple, but I like the one color thing for this spread. So not a failure at all. There are so many ways to paint shells. You could try to make them super realistic. That's a different way of doing it. This is a very loose way. I think they turn out really pretty. I think you could definitely make a collection of shell paintings and hang them all together, and it would be beautiful in your beach house. I don't have a beach house. But if I did, I would be hanging probably pictures of fish. Who am I kidding? Maybe there would be some shells too. Maybe. There would definitely be fish though. I hope you really enjoyed painting shells. Bye.